Hello, it's Father David on the Thursday of the third week of Great Lent. And I'm just going to pull from the initial meditation from today's reading where Father Stephen talks about sin and confession. And confession is a part of our Lenten effort, or it should be. If we're not used to going to confession regularly, then we should at least make the effort really to examine our hearts, to look at those areas of our lives that are constantly hooking us and snagging us and holding us captive, and cry out to God, confess that we are participating in these things, and beg God for His help and His mercy. But for those of us who have gone to confession multiple times, whether that's once a year or whether that's monthly or even weekly, it can be a very discouraging affair. Because for most of us, we usually bring the same thing to confession over and over. The same sort of primal sins that just seem to be at our core. And Father Stephen says, I admit that I sin before God, but I run into barriers when I want to confess my sins in the sacrament of confession. Either I consider some sins to be so trivial that I brush them aside, or I consider them to be so great that I cannot forgive myself. Thus, I become my own God. By minimizing my sin, I usurp God's judgment. By refusing to forgive myself, I assume His place as forgiver, doubting His mercy, ignoring His salvific work on the cross. Both my nonchalance and my self-condemnation isolate me from His forgiveness. When either of these two things occurs, I must admit that the impossibility of my reconciliation with Him is a problem that lies within me. Then I must take the first step. I need to come before God and express my dilemma regarding my attitude toward my sins. He will then help me take the next step toward reconciliation and inner healing. And this is a phenomenon that I have myself experienced when going to confession, and I hear it all the time with people that come to confession. They either consider themselves to, have either, well, Father, I'm a good person. I've never robbed a bank. I've never killed anybody. Now, so-and-so, and they go on to give somebody else's confession, right? What everybody else has done wrong. But there's not a searching, and while it is true that most of us have not participated in what many might consider those, deep, Ten Commandments type of things. We've never stolen anyone. We've never, coveted our neighbor's wife. We've never had an affair. We've never killed anyone. But part of what this is meant to do is to really take an honest look at the ways in which we've been hurt, and then from that pain, how have we hurt other people? The initial pain is very often not our fault. It's from something very early on, oftentimes. But then we have to take responsibility for what have we done with it. And for so many of us, when we come again and again to the confessional, I've just done this again. I'm in trouble with my mouth. I'm in trouble with my belly, my appetite. I'm in trouble with, what I look at. I'm in trouble with what I do. I'm in trouble with what I don't do. And it runs my life. And I've been saying this over and over again, and it's still the same. It's still there. I don't even know that God would accept me as repenting, really. And maybe I'm just going through the motions and He's just ignoring me. But there is a particular kind of faith that says, I'm simply going to get back up. I'm going to try again. Because, there is the temptation to give up on ourselves, that we're a lost cause, that there's no helping us. But this is what, ultimately we have to look at this through God's eyes, which is he is playing the long game. He has not given up on us yet. So don't let us give up on ourselves. To have that same severity towards our sin, but also to understand the long-lasting loving kindness of God. Hold both of those things together as you come to confession this Lent. So God bless you. Lord willing, we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.